Okay, good morning to everybody, and it is a pleasure to have all of you, both in presence and online, to celebrate this International Day of Plant Health. We know that the plants are very, very important for our survival, and we have to try to protect the plant as better as we can. So we are organizing this meeting within a couple of courses, the course of Difesa dalle Fitopatie and the course of Food and Beverage Innovation and Management, and then post-harvest disease management. We have to try to do our best to protect the plant into the field and after harvest. And I give the floor to Professor Elisabeth Caraffa, that is the Professor of Post-Harvest Disease Management.
Thank you. So I would like to welcome everyone as well, both in present, and several of the students indicated that we'll be able to present only online. So there's gonna be two very interesting short presentation, or not short, too short, covering the possibilities, new possibilities to use not chemical preservatives, but other technologies for the protection of the harvested fruits. So maybe I would like the first presenter to, if everyone is ready.
Yeah, before to start with presentation, we can have a very small video that celebrate the International Day of Plant Health. And please, Lucrezia, if you can run it.
I am life. I am home to millions, and I sustain millions more. My abundance brings prosperity, while my scarcity can be deadly. I cover much of the earth, and my influence extends far beyond. I have been around for longer than you can imagine, but my world is threatened. People need to take notice and do more to secure my future, because I am worth protecting. Your health relies on my health. Your life relies on mine. I am plants. I am life.
Thank you, Lucrezia. And we can move to the presentation, please.
So I'd like to ask the first presenter, Dr. Paloma.
Hello. Thank you for presentation. Okay, one moment, please. Okay, thank you for the presentation. I'm Paloma Quintanilla. I am postdoctoral researcher in VIA, Valencian Institute of Agricultural Research, and in concrete in the Post-Harvest Technology Center. Okay. Post-Harvest Technology Center is a multidisciplinary group with post-harvest physiologic technology and pathology post-harvest, nutritional quality, minimal processed fruits and vegetables, and sensory evaluation in the different area to study. Okay, but today I will focus in post-harvest technology and pathology. Respect post-harvest technology in this area, development and optimization of technology to prolong the post-harvest life, and other different lines to work. But principal, my work is development and characteristic of edible coatings with antifungal edible coatings to preserve fruit quality. And other option is the coating with an antioxidant activity, pre or probiotical activity. Okay, respect to post-harvest pathology, you know very well this area, and identification, characterization, and diagnosis of post-harvest disease between others. And for my area of work is important alternative to conventional chemical fungicides and effect of antifungal treatment on physicochemical and nutritional quality of fruits. My post-harvest technology and pathology work interrelated. And when, for example, to evaluate a new compounds for formulate new edible coatings, the experimental design standard is in three steps. Okay, in first step is in vitro test with selection and different antifungal agents and grassals, essential oils, and natural extracts, for example, is the first screening and primary screening for select the best substance. In the second, first in vitro test, and the second part in the in vivo test with the best select substance, for example, formulation of edible coating with these better agents in vitro test, okay? And also assessment of curative activity against fungus on inoculate fruit and incubate to at room temperature 20 degrees Celsius. And finally, when I have the best essential oils or substance, the next step is the assessment of selected antifungal edible coatings to control fungus, but in this case, during cold storage. Okay, and it's very important, antifungal curative capacity. And it's important that fruit quality, okay, and in the other step between, it's important the evaluation of fruit quality during long time plus shelf life period at 20 degrees Celsius. Okay, my presentation today is with the experimental design standard, say the same ways. Okay, use of antifungal grassals in edible coatings to control citrus anthracnose and preserve post-harvest quality. Brief introduction. The citrus production in Spain is very important because Spain produces a lot of citrus for the world. And in concrete, in my area, Valencia region, is the main producer of citrus in Spain. Okay. Then it's very important that the control decides. In this case, I speak about the citrus anthracnose caused by Coletrotrichum grasporoides, and this is the latent infection on the fruit. The disease also may develop in fruit treatment with ethylene for degreening, and the ideal condition is humid and hot climes. And the typical spot is the pink to salmon of color, the conidian masses, and the lesion extended is the brown to black soft rods. This is mean high economic losses for the production. Then it's very important the post-harvest antifungal treatment for this disease, or the, for example, penicillium disease. But conventional chemical fungicides now is a lot of problem, because chemical residues on produce and releases to the environment, fungicides, resistant strains, legal restriction in many countries, and the consumer required integrate and organic products. The last years that is changed for eco-friendly alternative strategies to control post-harvest disease. For example, physical and biological treatments, edible coating with antifungal agents on or low toxicity or low risk chemical treatment. For example, grass substance, inorganic or organic salt is an option, because, for example, in the case in applied with edible coatings, meets to the required. For example, is easy to apply, economy for industry, environment sustainable, and safe for consumer. And then the objective that this work is to develop a stable HPMC lipid coating containing the most effective salt and concentration, the best concentration. Then first, to evaluate the in vitro activity of various grass salts, to evaluate the availability of antifungal edible coating formulated with selected grass salts, and to study the effect of selected antifungal edible coating on physicochemical and sensory quality of Valencia orange during long-term cold storage. Okay. Okay. Respect to material and methods, the grass salt selected was this, and in the in vitro study was the salts incorporate aqueous solutions to incorporate PDA at different concentration in PDA. Okay, and when in the plague is inoculate the Colletotrichum in the plague and evaluation radial mycelial ground and percentage of mycelium ground inhibition during 7 days at 25 degrees Celsius. For replicate per sal for concentration evaluated. Okay, when I have the best salts in vitro with this study and previous in vitro results, plus the salt with capacity to form a stable emulsion with appropriate characteristics, was formulated edible coatings with HPMC and BWOX. Then with this edible coatings, the first study was in vivo. The first study in vivo was in pathology study. Okay, with Nador mandarins and Valencia orange was inoculated with Colletotrichum. After 24 hours, the fruit was coated and in storage during 15 days, and evaluated the curative capacity of the coatings against anthracnose and severity, the lesion diameter. Okay, it's very important. I use the control fruits is inoculate but not uncoated. Okay. After the first first study in vivo, the second study is for to know the quality parameters with the most effective coating in the previous in vivo study. We use the Valencia late orange, and this study during 56 days in cold storage plus 7 days and cell life. Okay, What's evaluation is the quality evaluation as in the fruits, health fruits, coating with the most effective coating, and evaluation, percentage of weight loss, fairness, and other parameters. And it's very important the concentration of carbon dioxide, ethanol, and acetaldehyde in use. Because it's indicated the possible fermentation in fruits or anaerobiosis respiration, and sensory evaluation with the fruits and at the final storage. Okay, respect to results in vitro study. In summary, a significant difference between grass salts with a concentration-dependent effect being more effective at higher doses. It's important considered, but the results showed the total inhibition after seven days. Respect to in vivo pathology study, the severity reduction is, for example, in this case, in mandarin and orange, and after 50 days of storage, can see in the potassium sorbate, HPMC with potassium sorbate, sodium benzoate, and potassium silicate was the most effective. In this case, is the next stop for quality evaluation. Okay, in this study, only with Valencia late orange. In general, the parameters of fruits no is varied, no significant difference. Well, no significant difference between the control. This column is the control fruits, and the 3 columns follow is the study with the salt. Okay, but it's important to consider that in CO2 concentration and ethanol and acetaldehyde is higher in the 3 coating respect to control. It indicates the internal atmosphere of fruits change with the coating, but when evaluate the sensory analysis, there were no significant difference, for example, of flavor and overall flavor. Okay. In conclusion, the development of HPMC VWOX edible coating were effective to reduce citrus post-harvest anthracnose through the addition of antifungal grass salts such as potassium sorbate, sodium benzoate, and potassium silicates, without adversely affected the physicochemical and sensory quality of the fruit. Finally, I want to thank my university for the support, my contract, my postdoctoral contract, and stop med waste in the last months. I am working in different studies respect to project. Thank you, and thank you for Professor Romanozzi and all the group, pathology group, because in this week you are. I am comfortable with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Paloma, for being with us. It was our pleasure to host you and to have a news of what you are doing in your lab and which is your research experience. And the audience is open for questions. Who want to start? Do not be shy. I saw in the last line something is moving. Who want to start with the first question? Even in Italian, if English is too hard for you. Okay, think, and I will have one by myself. you select the 3 different compounds and that came out from the different kind of evaluations. According to you, which is the one that can be closer to the market, or the one that one day can be applied on large-scale trials, and why?
And why apply the salt or with coating? The salt, bueno, 2 or 3 salt is used in industry, citrus industry, but in aqueous form. But the coating, for example, the coating help the gloss, or more important, the coating helps to avoid the weight loss. Weight loss is is economy loss for agriculture or for cooperative. And this is a question or no? Okay.
Very good. Also, the people that are following online, I saw a big bunch of you are online. You can have questions to Paloma. Do you have any questions? No. Okay. Anybody in the audience? Now? Later? Okay. Think on and we can do at the end. Okay. Thank you again, Paloma.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask Dr. Simone Piancatelli from this university, Ancona. He did some research in Davis in the United States. And the title of his presentation is Chitosan Edible Coating on Post-Harvest Decay of Navel Oranges Caused by Penicillium digitatum and Penicillium italicum.
Yes. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for participating. So this presentation is about a research activities carried out in collaboration with the University of California, Davis, and this department. And we worked on novel oranges that are very important commodities for the state, because is one of the main country, one of the main state of the U.S. in producing oranges. More than 50% of the total citrus production is from California, and also the 74% of the value of this market is from the state. And the oranges are stably in the top 20 commodity of Californian agriculture. But the industry, the main problem of citrus industry in California is the post-harvest disease, post-harvest green and blue mold that are caused respectively by Penicillium digitatum and Penicillium italicum. These 2 pathogens have similar life cycles, even though Penicillium digitatum usually develop faster, and the disease can be spread faster compared to Italicum. But the second one is also more resistant to stress conditions, such as low temperatures or humidity, scarcity of water. So both of them are threatening the industry. And fungicides are needed to protect oranges from this disease, because and in the industry, in the market, we can find fruits that are treated also with up to 5 fungicides altogether, and then coated with a wax to preserve the quality. But this is not the only problem, because these fungi are able also to develop fungicide resistances. And so sometimes we invest money and we put at risk our health, but still we are not able to stop the infections. It's not moving the presentation, sorry. Okay, so in the last years, we are in a period of transition where the consumers and the policy makers are asking to reduce the use of chemical fungicides that can be dangerous for the humans and can pose at risk the environment. And so also at international level with the Sustainable Development Goals, the aim is to reach a sustainable model for produce food, and also to reduce the waste of these fruits. And also in Europe, for example, with the farm to fork strategy, there are some goals that should be achieved by within 2030. So, for example, the reduction of 50% of the chemical pesticides, the increase the organic farming production up to 25%, and also reduce by 50% the food loss and waste. That is a big amount of the food that we lost is in the post-harvest stage, so after the field. To help in this direction, regulation of some years ago introduced some new categories of substances that can be useful to reduce the use of pesticides. For example, the basic substances that are substances from natural origin that we already use in other fields of application. For example, the food industry or medicine, and but they can be useful in plant protection because of their properties. And among the characteristics, the most important are that they don't have a pre-harvest interval, and they don't have a maximum residual limits. And they are generally approved for organic farming, but not always. So this study focused the work on one of these basic substances, that is chitosan. Is a biopolymer obtained from chitin deacetylation, and we already use chitosan in other fields, like we can find in pharmacy, for example, and for this reason, the ether to register these compounds, this group of compounds, is simplified compared to the conventional pesticides. This biopolymer showed a threefold activity when applied on plant tissues, and that are antimicrobial properties, eliciting properties, and film forming properties. So the research was divided in two big chapters. The first is a in vitro evaluation of the antimicrobial activity of this basic substance. And so we follow two different approaches to understand the effectiveness in this sense. The first approach is against the spore germination, so the capacity of this biopolymer to inhibit the germination of the spores. And the second approach was against the mycelia, actively growing mycelia, because these two are the main ways that the fungi have to spread and to infect new fruits, by spores that land on new fruits, and by contact with the mycelia that is ready to invade new tissues. So for the spore trials, we test some different concentration of chitosan, and we selected 4 Californian isolated from Californian packing houses. In particular, 2 strains of the Penicillium digitatum and 2 strains of Penicillium italicum, wild type, so fungicide susceptible, and fungicide resistant strains. Some results of this first trial showed that chitosan 0.5% was able to stop the germination of the spores. Only Penicillium italicum showed a bit higher resistance to chitosan concentration, because it is after 7 or 8 days starts to grow even in 0.75%. But we can consider that chitosan 0.5% was effective in stop the spore germination on the substrate. So we are in vitro, so in plates amended with chitosan. Following the other approach, we extend the study in all the strains, other strains of Penicillium. So we include in this study also Penicillium expansum, that is not affect orange direct. It affects mainly apples, for example, but it can be useful to understand if chitosan can stop even other isolates. Here we increase a bit the concentration because we thought that it can be harder to stop the mycelia that is actively growing compared to spores that need to be germinated before being effective. And in this study, we place a plug of PDA inoculated with spore suspension, and once these spores were germinated, we place in the middle of the plate with the substrate amended with chitosan at different concentrations. And so the mycelia growing on this little plug then have to face the substrate amended with chitosan. And in this case, we observed that the fungi can invade the substrate treated with chitosan up to 1%. But for Penicillium digitatum and for Penicillium italicum, while Penicillium expansum showed higher resistance to chitosan, and it was able to grow with this approach even in the chitosan 2%, PDA plus chitosan 2%. Another way to understand the results is considering the inhibition at the end of the trial. So we kept observing the plates up to 10 days when the control plates without chitosan reached the edge of the plate, and the inhibition was 100% in all the Penicillium digitatum and Penicillium italicum strains with chitosan 1%, while was ranging around 50% with the Penicillium expansum strains until the concentration of 2%. And this method that I showed with the plug transfer with spore already germinated allowed to collect solid data, because we are measuring the radial growth, so we need a perfect circle to evaluate the diameter of these circles. If we are speaking about radial growth, it's important to have a perfect circle. And in this picture, we can see the inhibition that we observed with this approach. Also, before to go in the other chapter that are the in vivo trials, we tested in vitro the real resistance to the fungicide of our isolates that we were testing. So we used this, the sparaplater is a machine that spread the compounds radially. So in the center of the plates, we have a higher concentration of the compound, while going toward the edge, the concentration decrease. And measuring the distance from the center, we can understand which is the concentration, the first effective concentration, and the concentration that reduced 50% the growth, and the total inhibition concentration. And we can see that for the wild type, imazalil was very effective because it stopped immediately the growth of the wild type strains, while the fungicide resistant strains for both italicum and digitatum grow in the imazalil amended plate normally, as in the control without the fungicide. So for the in vivo trials, we collect oranges in Bakersfield, that is the main region for citrus production in California. Is located in Kern County in the south, and we carry out some preliminary trials to understand, because when we pass from the in vitro to in vivo, many factors can affect what we observed in vitro. So before we tested the chitosan 1%, that was the concentration effective with the mycelia, actively growing mycelia, and the effectiveness of this of chitosan 1% was located in the middle between the control on the corner, left corner, and the final product. So the orange is coated with fungicides and wax. From this investigation, we decided to set up an experiment with 6 different treatments. So we test chitosan alone, 1 and 2%, and also chitosan 1% plus wax. And we compare these treatments with a fungicide control. So this is the final product we have in the supermarket, for example, wax alone and untreated control. And these are some details on how we applied the treatments. But sometimes going from the, sometimes to replace a conventional practice or use of widely used fungicide is hard. Even if a compound it can be effective, it's hard to replace a conventional practice. In fact, here are the steps to prepare for the coating application of chitosan on oranges. And in red, the points that can be critical for prepare a good coating. Especially in number 7, the drying of the fruits is very important for the compatibility, for example, with the wax. We observed that it's hard to combine the two products when the fruits are not well dried. The first things we evaluate is the weight loss of the oranges, because as Dr. Paloma said before, we cannot think that the fruit quality, the post-harvest disease management is something not linked with fruit quality. So we want that even if the alternative is effective, fruit must be stored for a long time in our houses. And we observed in this trial that chitosan alone was able to reduce the water loss, so the weight loss of the oranges, compared to untreated oranges. But this was not enough, because if we observe the market or the oranges that we find in the market, so the oranges with the wax, we can see that there is a significant difference with the chitosan alone. And so we decided to, for this reason, we decided to apply the treatment chitosan plus wax. And this treatment was suggested a synergistic effect, because it was even better than the fungicide plus wax or wax alone. These oranges were observed to up to 14 days, and what we analyze is the cumulative weight loss, so the weight loss at the end of the experiment. The effectiveness trial was carried out with a non-wounded based cross-contamination method developed by Bodio et al. In the lab where I worked, and this method consists in prepare a source, inoculate some fruits with a spore suspension, and these fruits represent are called source fruit, because those fruits we will transfer the infection on our treated target fruits by contact. So is the mycelia is actively growing, is very infective, and we test the compounds in this condition that are prohibitive for all the fruits. But these are the conditions that are similar to the reality, because this is what happened in the packing houses. A fruit, an infected fruit can spread the infection on all the around fruits that are in contact with them. And the mycelia actively growing is able to infect also healthy fruit and not non-wounded fruits. So with this method, at the end, we evaluate the cumulative disease incidence after 12 days of post cross-contamination, and the control almost reach 100% almost with all the strains we tested. And while the wax-coated oranges, so the oranges coated just with wax, reduce a bit the incidence, but usually this reduction was not significant. We explained this because maybe even if the wax does not present antimicrobial activities, but is a barrier, is a mechanical barrier that can reduce a bit the infection from the pathogen. The positive control, the control treated with imazalil and wax, was very effective with the wild type strains. So, but on the fungicide resistant strains, we didn't observe differences with the wax alone. So the application of the imazalil in this case was useless, because the pathogens were able to infect the oranges. as well as oranges without fungicides. As regards chitosan, we observed consistent effectiveness toward all the strains we tested, and especially it was higher with the fungicide-resistant strains. We observed a higher virulence on the wild-type strains when there is not a limiting factor, that is the fungicide. The treatment that performed better is chitosan 2%. Chitosan 1% plus wax is usually located in the middle or at the same level of chitosan 2%, while chitosan 1% by itself is a bit higher than the first two. But the incidence is not the only thing we care, because it is also important to understand the behavior of the infection and the development of the infection. So first, we wanted to understand the cumulative incidence tell us at the end of the trial we have this amount of oranges infected, so number of infected fruits on the total observation. But when this infection started, so for example, we can see here in the control, most of the fruit were infected at the first day at DPCC 0. So as soon as we remove the source fruit from the target fruit, the 80% of the fruits was already infected, so was already gone. While we observed that wax with the imazalil or wax alone was able to delay for 1 or 2 days the first lesion appearance. If we go to observe the chitosan, we can see that chitosan 2% was very effective in postpone the infection. So the higher amount of infected fruits appear after 4 days of cross-contamination. This means that we can store the fruit for a longer period. And in these conditions that are prohibitive for the oranges, because we do the trial with humidity, with the perfect condition for the pathogens, the delay was about 3 or 4 days. But imagine at home, at room temperature with low humidity, maybe this delay can be even higher, and we have much time to eat our fruits before we waste them. Another aspect we evaluated is the lesion size. In this case, we didn't see big differences. That means that once the lesions start, then it's very hard to stop and to control. So it's a protection mainly, it's not a curative. And we saw that as we expected, Penicillium digitatum was developed fastly, and once we saw the first lesion in a couple of days, the orange it must be wasted. Italicum is a bit slower, but still, once the infection started, then it reached the maximum size, that is 70 millimeters. At the end of the experiment, just to understand if we said we can prevent we had good result in protecting the fruits, but is the quality still good of these oranges? And so we did a visual evaluation. So from the oranges that were stored for the weight loss trial at room temperature for 16 days, we select some samples and we randomize them without telling the two people what was the treatment. And we asked some question. For example, how many days have this orange been sitting at room temperatures? And the answer of and we can see that for chitosan 1%, imazalil wax, and chitosan 2% and wax alone, people underestimated this time. So the oranges were 16 days old, but a lot of people thought these oranges were just 4 or 8 days old. While for the control, some people, like I think 7 people on 21 people, replied 32 days or more than double. That means that if we don't treat our oranges, even without the infection, we will waste these oranges. Another question was to rate from 1 to 7 the oranges. 1 is extremely, dislike extremely, and 7 was I like very much this orange, I would eat this orange. Well, the untreated control was the only treatment with dislike extremely. So people really didn't want to eat untreated oranges, even if it was healthy. While it's nice to see how chitosan plus wax or chitosan alone oranges were appreciated by the consumers, by the people we asked, as well as the imazalil and wax control. That I repeat are the oranges that we find in the supermarket. Last question. The last question was which of these oranges are treated with chitosan? So can people understand differences between chitosan treated oranges and fungicide treated oranges? From this small trial, we can say no, because 57% of the people answered that thought that the imazalil plus wax was in reality treated by chitosan, and the other two treatments are close, are around 52-53%. And so thank you all for your attention, and thank you for our team that give me the possibility to do this research abroad, and also thanks to the Californian teams, especially Prof. Blanculate for hosting me for the second time in her lab. And yeah, please, if you have questions, ask me, because it can be useful to see and to improve for future experiment. Thank you.
Simone and Paloma and Simone, you can come on the table, and we are ready. They are ready actually for your questions. So do not skip. You cannot skip. Please, who want to start? Marwa.
Okay. So the 100% inhibition was observed 1% with Penicillium italicum and Penicillium digitatum. Expansum was able to grow up to 2%. We didn't observe 100% inhibition, we didn't test if the inhibition was fungistatic or fungicidal. We just observed that we were able to stop the fungi. So we didn't, after the trial, we didn't transfer the plug with the fungi in a new plate to see if it was dead or was still alive. But okay, I didn't show this, but I think it can be a fungicidal effect, because before we tried a different approach. So we inoculate the spores directly. So the plug was in the Petri before the transfer, and we inoculate the spores directly on this plug. And sometimes using this approach, the spores didn't even germinate it. So probably some chitosan diffused. There was a bit of diffusion of chitosan in the plug that we placed there in the middle, but and was able to kill the fungi. For this reason, then we follow the other approach to inoculate before and then transfer. But yeah, thank you for your question. I hope I answered. It was very interesting. But the trial that we carried out on the oranges the condition were unbelievable favorable to the pathogen, because we didn't went in the detail of material and methods, but we store for 12 days in a box with high humidity, close to 100%, 12.5 degrees. So we put the fungi in the best condition, and so so the differences in the cumulative incidents are I think are solid, because the conditions were very favorable to the pathogens. Thank you.
Further question, even from the people that follow at home?
So you two introduced the effectiveness of different treatments towards different pathogens. Do you plan, or have you got preliminary results regarding the grass salts against the penicillium species?
This study was published in paper in research, and other studies was elaborated to penicillium, and the grass salt is a good option. Now is the option permitted for the legislation, but now we evaluated essential oils and extracts, natural extracts. I can differ. I have different areas and substance for change the conventional chemical.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I'm sure that some of the students is ready. We need at least one question from one bunch and another bunch. Who is the volunteer? Okay, who is of this team, and later? Okay, there is a question online. Take your time, and your turn is coming soon. Yeah. Medea tells, good afternoon to everybody. I have a question for Simone. In applying wax and chitosan together, did you use as a mixture, or first wax, then chitosan? Do you think that this affects the final results? Wow, strong question.
So this was the main problem of, so first, thank you, Medea, for the question. It's very interesting, because this was the main problem we have to face in carrying out the experiment, because for chemical incompatibility, the carnauba wax we used were not we couldn't mix with chitosan. So we tried several approaches, and at the end we find a study in bibliography that suggests us to first the fruits and treat it with chitosan and then apply the wax. The approach to put wax first and chitosan later, at the beginning we thought was a success, because we tried and the oranges looks perfect. But we had the problem that once we put the oranges in the under humidity condition to carry out the cross-contamination trial, then the oranges becomes like slimy, and the chitosan, and we observed the loss of the chitosan coating, because wax were hydrophobic, and the chitosan coating was since chitosan is chitosan hydrochlorate was affine with the water and go away with water, and we were not able to keep on the wax coating. So we did the reverse. We apply chitosan first, and when it's dry, we seal it with the wax. I hope I answer to this question, but thank you.
Thank you. There is another question that is coming. You can come to the floor. No. For the people that are home, don't worry. Come down. Be ready by your side. Somebody from you Will join us soon. One day you will get a degree from there.
What emotion, whoa. So the seminar was very interesting. So a good job. And I have the question about the using of this substance in the protection of other fluids. For example, in strawberry, when we don't have to remove the peel or some other fluid. Have you ever tried this type of substance in other fluids?
Personally, I didn't work on this, but there are many studies on other fruits. Studies that sometimes starts from the pre-harvest application, and also in post-harvest there are many works on edible coatings. And the positive aspect of using this kind of compounds is that the basic substance, because I worked with them, they are already used in the food industry. So we already eat these substances. It's a requirement to be a basic substance. So even if you don't have to remove the skin, you can eat the fruit because it's registered as basic substance. So it is allowed to eat them.
Regarding to salts, grass salts, in other compound, in other fruits, I don't know in strawberry, but in pomegranate is used, and is a good option. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the answer, and good luck.
Thank you for your question.
From the other team, Morgan, it's your turn. Who else want to? Any volunteer from the audience?
It's not possible that everything was clear.
Samuel, come here.
I have a question for Simone, but mine is it's not scientific. It's just I have some. I'm curious because I don't remember exactly, but I felt like customers, like the people who tried the fruit who looked the fruit, they liked mostly those that had wax. So did you ask them why they liked the look of the fruit? Because as far as I understood, it's like rating the fruit from 1 to 7, but why? Because I felt a little bit like, oh, this is shinier, so it's better. So just let me know if you ask them.
A very good question, because I didn't ask, because if you look at the oranges, it's obvious. So we didn't ask why you prefer this. Consider that we never eat untreated oranges. All the oranges we find in the supermarket are treated, because if we don't put wax on top, they lose water very fastly, and the shelf life, the storage is just a couple of days. So in the industry, all the oranges are waxed, and so the appearance of the untreated wax they were very soft, and the skin starts to lose the I don't know exactly, the consistency. And you can see if you place the oranges somewhere, then the shape of the place is printed on the screen. So they are very not, I don't know the English term, but the appealing is very bad.
So it wouldn't be because wax is shiny. It is mostly because the consistency of fruit is softer, so we like them thicker and
it is both.
Urgent.
It's both. But the shiny was also just with chitosan. Chitosan alone was able to give shiny to the fruits and didn't damage the skin, so we didn't observe any change in the color of the skin. But compared to wax, if we don't apply the wax, the water loss was very fast. A bit better than the control, but still not enough.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
And chitosan is used also on the cream, so it can support us to shine a little bit more. Paloma, about customer preference.
For me, it's very interesting that the work in Davis that Simone, and I consider it is the possible, I don't know, incorporate with emulsion or other way the chitosan with.
Yes, I personally didn't. I just tested chitosan by itself, but I know there are some studies that maybe not on oranges, but on other fruits that they enhance the chitosan effectiveness with other antimicrobials, antimicrobial compounds. I know, for example, some essential oil. So the film created by the chitosan helps the essential oil to stay on the skin. So I think there is a synergistic effect. But chitosan by itself show antimicrobial properties for its own characteristics. So yeah, for sure it can be improved, the coating.
Question from the audience? Okay, so Professor Carafa, if you have some final remarks.
Thank you. First of all, I very glad to be here, and thanks the organization. I think it was very useful for all of us and for the students as well to get some more broad knowledges, and it's very prospective and nice results were summarized, and we have got the hope that aims to reduce the chemical pesticides can be aimed in the near future. At least we have got some very nice results supporting that these aims are not something unreality, and we can change the pesticides to some more natural compounds. Thank you.
Thanks to you.